Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Jeremy and this is Recast from the Past, where we are reviewing Degrassi, The Next Generation, Mother and Child Reunion Part 2. If you haven't seen the first part, go ahead and check out my previous video before you watch this one. So this episode gets pretty intense, so I do want to issue a trigger warning for those sensitive to issues related to pet or child abuse. Of course, we touched on it a little bit last episode, but it definitely becomes very real in this episode. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into part 2 of Mother and Child Reunion. So the episode begins with Spike getting ready for her high school reunion, which is taking place that night, and Emma really trying to get her out the door because, of course, Emma has a hot date with Jordan. The mom is looking for her purse, and Emma's like, it's right here. So Spike kind of senses that she's getting shooed out by her own daughter, and Mother's intuition is telling her that something's not quite right here, and she brings it up to Emma. Emma just lies and says, oh, tonight I'm not going to do anything special. Manny and I are just going to hang out. With Spike out the door, Emma excitedly runs up the stairs to get ready for her meeting with Jordan. Over at the school, Snake is greeting Caitlin and her fiance, Keith. He's very happy to see Caitlin, gives her a nice kiss on the cheek, looks over at Keith and is not so happy to see him, gives him a nice robotic welcome. When Keith finds out there's going to be a tour, he's like, wait, what? There's a tour? How about I just get us some drinks? And I'm just like, same. Then we are introduced to some more of our student characters with Terry and Ashley giving tours of the school to Caitlin Ryan and Joey Jeremiah. We don't really get a lot from these characters in this episode. Actually, this is all we get from these characters in this episode. But rest assured, both of them will be getting their own episodes sometime in the future. Joey arrives, and Caitlin and Joey have this moment where they look at each other all romantically. And it's quite obvious that these two are going to get together, especially since Keith is so irredeemable at this point. Back at home, Emma is there lying to Manny, saying that she is not going to meet Jordan when we know damn well she's about to, as she tries to decide whether her banana or sky blue nail polish will impress Jordan more. But Emma is a terrible liar, and Manny definitely suspects that something is up. Then we have Ashley giving a tour of the school while Joey and Caitlin very obviously ignore her at full volume as they discuss their previous night.
Up ahead.
Was I'm really sorry about last night.
Joey's getting all tripped up over his words, trying to tell Caitlin, like, oh, I really just want to be friends with you. They don't want to have any more awkward interactions and get over whatever is going on between the two of them, which is mostly being caused by Joey, let's be honest. Caitlin is trying to convince Joey to stay when another former character and very obvious mean girl, Allison, not that one, but close enough, interrupts their conversation. Allison thinks Joey's commercial is hot, so I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks so. Allison is such a bitch and it's kind of hilarious. She's like, oh, and I see you every week on that show. What's it called? Anyway, Joey, how are you doing? Love your commercials, so hot. And steals Joey away. Caitlin's like, this bitch. But hey, she already has her fiance, and I think Joey deserves a little end of summer fling. So Emma arrives at whatever Holiday Inn Jordan is staying at, and she is just so impressed by the bouquet in the lobby and whatever elevator music is playing over the loudspeaker. She's like, wow, this hotel is so fancy, but we see none of that. I almost feel like this is Emma's first time at a hotel, and we'll get more evidence of that later. So, okay, remember Emma was like, oh, it's okay, we're gonna meet somewhere public, when she was talking to Joey, JT, and Manny. A hotel is not a public place to meet. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not. I mean, if you're meeting in the elevator lobby, I guess that's public. But when you say we're gonna meet somewhere public, you mean like, oh, we're gonna meet at a coffee shop, or a movie theater, or a restaurant. Not the freaking hotel lobby, Emma, come on. Emma calls upstairs to let Jordan know that she is waiting downstairs for him. We cut over to Toby's house where JT and Toby are hanging out, and Manny arrives to tell them that she is worried about Emma. We learn that Emma has a cell phone that she is not picking up. And I have to say, I was so jealous of my friends at this age. In 2003, I think I had a couple of friends who really did have a cell phone, which is kind of crazy. Like nowadays, I expect all kids in middle school to have cell phones, but then it was a novel idea, right? But definitely a few kids did. Really the only thing we'd ever use it for, texting those few friends who actually had a cell phone, and of course spending way too many hours on Snake, which was a lot more fun than it has any right to be, but whatever. So Manny tells them that she suspects Emma went to go meet Jordan, and then Toby tells us this terrifying story about a girl who went to go meet a stranger on the internet and she ends up getting killed. Which, with the amount of true crime content I consume, I'm definitely inclined to believe this kind of thing happens all the time. But with the amount of strangers I've met on the internet, I would think maybe not as much. Although I am a man and I'm an adult, so it's different. JT argues that Emma couldn't possibly be trying to meet this guy on the internet because she is way too smart for that. She practically gets straight A's. And I'm just like, practically? Get it together, Emma. And they kind of brainstorm ways that they can figure out what's going on. Manny's like, but we can't check her email. And Toby's like, oh, yes, we can. So back at the reunion, Joey has gone off to get drinks for him and Allison. And Allison is quick. She has already scooped up Caitlin's other boy. I think it's safe to say it's her goal to steal every single one of Caitlin's men. Then we have all these statements from Keith to Allison while Joey secretly listens in the background. And I'm trying to figure out what the logic is in any of these sentences. First,
you know her better than me, right? You went to high school with her.
In what world do the people that you went to high school with know your fiance better than you know your fiance? Like, that was 10 years ago, Keith, and you don't know how well they know each other. And then he says,
Katie is really pushing this marriage thing, and I'm about to hit it big down in LA, and so her career would have to take the back seat, you know. And I don't think that's fair to her.
And I'm like, what does any of this mean? This doesn't make any sense. He's like, my career is about to take off, and it's not fair for Caitlin, because then her career has to take a back seat. Why does her career have to take a back seat, first of all? Like, can't you both be successful in your respective jobs? Like, don't famous actors date other famous actors, or directors date directors, or whatever? I think it's probably fine, Keith. But obviously, he's just looking for an excuse to get out of this relationship and get it on with Allison. And Allison is really trying it as she seductively slides those fingers into that lapel. But luckily, Joey overhears the entire thing. So while Emma is waiting in the lobby, a man named Mr. Nystrom walks by and recognizes Emma. So he's claiming to be Jordan's teacher. He's like, oh, Jordan told me so much about you. Why don't you come upstairs? We're just about to eat this pizza. First of all, what kind of teacher is okay with their student talking to some stranger on the internet? Not only okay with it, but knows what she looks like enough to recognize her in the hotel lobby, is okay with her coming to the hotel to meet the student. Like, some very obvious red flags, Emma. So I do feel kind of weird saying this, but the actor is quite good looking. But I actually like that they do this, because it's like, of course, if it's some creepy looking guy, she's not going to be convinced to go upstairs with him. And the fact that his name is Mr. Nystrom, and that he's attractive, and that he seems friendly, is all a way to manipulate this child, which I think the show does a smart job of showing you, like, it can be anyone. So when he invites her upstairs, she's kind of like, maybe not a good idea. But then he convinces her by telling her, oh, but Jordan wanted you to sign his petition that he brought all the way from Yellowknife.
All the way from Yellowknife?
And for whatever reason, that's enough to convince Emma to go upstairs with this stranger. Isn't a petition just a freaking piece of paper? Why can't he bring it downstairs and she could sign it downstairs? But Emma does not see this logic. So Toby, JT, and Manny are trying to figure out Emma's password so that they can log into her email to figure out where she's at. So at first they're trying to guess what the password is, and they're able to use the security question, which I think is actually a hint, to figure out that her password is her mother's favorite band. Which, who makes their password their mother's favorite band? Pretty sure my password was MyMusic1, which is so stupid, and I just gave out my old password to everybody. I hope I don't use it as my... I think it's still the password to my old AOL account, if that still exists. But I'll never tell you what it is. I wonder if it's still active. My first AOL account was Lil Crazy Red Guy, and I don't think that was the password to that account. So Emma and Mr. Nystrom are walking through the hallway to the hotel room. She's so obsessed with Jordan that she is completely blind to everything that is happening to her right now. He gives her the key to tell her to go into the hotel room first. Like, Mr. Nystrom gives this like super creepy look right before he enters the hotel room with Emma. You know, I said he was cute. And things are like just starting to get creepy. He knocks on the door to the adjacent hotel room to call the other boys in for dinner to eat the pizza, while him and Emma take a seat to wait. He gestures over to the camera that is on the bed and claims that they're just going to be doing a video journal of their trip. He like grabs a piece of the pizza, offers her some pizza, telling her that the students will be in just a couple minutes. And then he starts eating the pizza and like talking with his mouth full. You like hear the sound of him eating and chewing at the same time.
Hiker? I take the guys hiking around Yellowknife sometimes.
And for whatever reason, this is what convinces Emma that Mr. Nystrom isn't so nice after all. She gives this excuse that she thinks she left her bag downstairs, so she needs to run down and grab it. He's like, oh, but your bag is right here. And so she quickly makes her way to the exit. But unfortunately, I don't know if it's her first time in a hotel room or if she's just panicking hardcore, which I can completely understand. She's unable to get the locks open. She just sits there fumbling with the door for a second before she locks herself into the bathroom. And this part is super tense. Like, as an audience member, of course we know basically from the start that this guy is not right, that there's something wrong here. But just seeing her finally figure it out and then panic and unable to escape and then lock herself in the bathroom, and you're like, oh my gosh, Emma, no, what's gonna happen? But just as things are getting super intense, we cut back over to the reunion. So Caitlin, being the resident celebrity of her graduating class, comes on stage to give a nice but completely unremarkable speech. While she's giving her speech, Joey decides to confront Keith on the conversation that he had with Allison like 20 minutes prior. When Keith is presented with this, he says,
"What, you were eavesdropping? That is so uncool."
"This is the type of righteous indignation I aspire to have when I'm being called out on something I did." They begin to fight very loudly in front of everyone, and Caitlin's like, Then this fight scene commences with Keith and Joey, which is really just like Keith completely bullying Joey the entire time. Like, first Keith pats Joey on the cheek a couple times, and then of course Joey stands up, and then Keith just punches him in the face. Like, I think it would have made more sense if Joey was a little bit more of the aggressor after he's getting the little smacks on the cheek. Like, it seems pretty intense for Keith to slap Joey's cheek and then punch him in the face. Then when Joey tries to pin him down, grabs him and puts him in the headlock. Like, I feel so bad seeing Joey get his ass handed to him by Keith. But then luckily we get this moment of redemption where Keith is getting a phone call and Joey answers the call and just starts pistol whipping him with that early 2000s brick Nokia that he's got. Could you imagine if it was one of those phones from the 80s? Those giant like walkie-talkie sized phones. Then he could have done some real damage. I like how this whole fight is happening and all of their friends do absolutely nothing. Mr. Simpson is just standing in the background like, no, like, he's a tall guy, but that's fine. So the conversation with Allison and Keith comes out, and Caitlin discovers that Keith doesn't really want to marry her. I like how everyone in the background is just like pretending they're having another conversation when we all know in real life we'd be like,
so he has doubts about getting married.
Like, we just interrupted a speech that we were all paying attention to a fight, to an argument. Of course everybody's gonna be listening in to exactly what's going on. Like, I'd be getting all the tea. I'd be like, wait, who is she? How does she know him? Wait, that's their fiance? Why did the friend do nothing? Okay, so we're back with Emma at the hotel. She's still locked in the bathroom. We have Mr. Nystrom coming clean that he is actually Jordan. He basically keeps playing up this nice guy routine and offers to let Emma leave if she's feeling uncomfortable. He's like, oh, I'll just go wait at the lobby. You can stay if you want, or you can leave if that's what you really want. Caitlin and Joey are in the bathroom and she says,
Bring back any memories?
like, I'm sorry, what about this happened before? Like, maybe her last boyfriend kicked his ass at prom or something, I don't know. Caitlin says she really thought it was gonna work out with Keith because she never had any relationship last longer than a few months except for him. And I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Actually, my longest is like 2.5 years, which is like a decade in gay relationships, so I'm doing fine. Caitlin explains to Joey that Keith is not always such an ass, which I think as an audience member, I would have really liked to see a little bit of that side of him, for sure. Do you hear the mewing kitty? Mew. Guest appearance by my one and only kitty. She's the real star of the show, huh? Mew. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So we learned that Caitlin asked Keith to marry her, which, okay. So now we're definitely seeing a lot of red flags. I mean, we've been seeing red flags from the very first meeting of Keith, but not only did he ask her to pick out her own wedding ring, she was the one that asked to propose, and come on, Caitlin, he's just not that into you. Which is crazy because she's like amazing. We haven't seen any bad qualities for her except for her bad taste in men, although hopefully Joey will change that. Then Caitlin has this moment of clarity where she says,
He's so not the one. I mean, it's so obvious. I gave Emma relationship advice last night.
like, I'm finally glad you arrived at the destination the entire universe was at last week, but at least you're here. And then finally, we get somebody asking the right questions about Joey's late wife.
Joey, with Julia? How did you know that it was right?
This is a way to talk to someone who's grieving. And then we get this moment where Joey is describing what he loved about Julia, his late wife. And it's really touching, although he says,
Her hair smelled like rain.
And I don't know, is that really a thing? Can your hair smell like rain all the time? Because I want whatever shampoo she's using. So at Toby's place, they're going through some old pictures. They're able to figure out that her mom's favorite band was the Pogues. And so they successfully hack into her email. So okay, now Emma is making her escape. And this is now her second attempt in learning how to unlock a hotel door. And she still struggles with it. She can't figure out how it's locked. She tries to open the door. She's not able to get it open at first. Then she's able to successfully get the door open. However, we get to see the real Mr. Nystrom, and it is terrifying.
One noise, and I tape your mouth. And I don't think you'd want that.
So the situation is very dire right now with Emma at the hotel. Okay, so then Toby and them spend way too long looking through Emma's emails. For whatever reason, instead of checking the very first email, which would tell them specifically where Emma is right now, they decide to start at the very first email and read their entire conversation. They learn that Jordan also hacked Emma's emails. Basically, whatever Emma is saying to Manny or whoever else she's emailing, Jordan is reading those emails, gathering information about Emma, and kind of echoing it back to her to make her feel like they are kindred spirits and that he is looking into her soul. I love this little read from Joey when he's talking about Emma's emails to Manny.
But the next day, Emma emails you some garbage about how great fresh air is.
Excuse me, garbage? Like, give Emma a break. Fresh air is important to the girl. Okay, then things become terrifying back at the hotel with Emma and Mr. Nystrom. Like, it's starting to feel like a PG-13 horror movie or thriller or something. Mr. Nystrom is kind of like taunting Emma.
Emma, your mother's at her reunion. She doesn't even know that you're missing.
Like, this is a kid's TV show. This is for preteens. This is terrifying. I feel like it's crossing the line quite a bit here. I think they could get the point across to kids without going quite this far, but okay. Finally, they get to the most recent email and they figure out where Emma is. So they run over to the school to tell her mom at the reunion. They interrupt this cute little moment between Snake and Spike.
Love being back here. You know, I get to teach kids like Emma. I get to dance with her mother.
Someone's gotten smoother in the last 10 years.
I'm sorry, nothing about that was smooth. And then Spike gets on the phone with the police where she gives them almost no information that will be useful to them.
Hello, police? My daughter's in danger. I don't know who she's with. All I know is that it's someone she met on the internet. Please hurry.
Okay, so I'm not even going to show this next part at the hotel because it gets really uncomfortable. Basically, Mr. Nystrom is starting to get touchy-feely with Emma, but thank God the parents are arriving at the hotel just in the nick of time. I don't know how they're able to get the room number from the hotel receptionist, but we're glad that they do. Things get creepier and creepier in the hotel room with Emma, but Spike and Snake are rushing through the hallway looking for the correct hotel room. They find it and begin pounding on the door. When Emma hears them, she bites Mr. Nystrom and does this like karate maneuver, kick backwards, flip around the bed, runs to the hotel room door. But luckily, Emma is pretty practiced at hotel room doors at this point and gets it open just quick enough. And they apprehend the sicko just as the police arrive. A little later, or maybe the next day, we see a detective carrying Emma's computer downstairs to help with the investigation. They think they can nail the creep with this piece of evidence, and I'm like, you think? Isn't the evidence pretty solid at this point? But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. While leaving the house, the detective gives Snake this piece of advice, and that is to keep the computer downstairs, of course, so that she can have a better eye on Emma and to keep the cyber stalkers out of her room. Which I think, obviously, this is a message for the parents at the time. You know, a better way to keep your kids safe is keep an eye on their internet activities. Except nowadays, every kid has a cell phone, so there's really no doing that anymore. So Spike goes back upstairs, and Emma's just kind of like playing it off like nothing happened. Oh, I'm sorry I ruined your reunion. I hope you had fun last night. And of course, the mom goes off on Emma for the string of terrible mistakes that she made. And I'm kind of like, first of all, how is Emma not traumatized by what just happened to her? That is terrifying, like especially the way that they showed it. And also, how is the mom not like a little bit less mad and a little bit more worried that the daughter is okay? But I'm sure they had a conversation where they found out that nothing really happened, but I don't know. So they get into this argument about making mistakes, and Emma brings up that her mother makes mistakes too, like having her, because her mom did not intend to have her at the age that she did, of course, but not the same kind of mistake. So things cool off a bit and Spike pleads with her daughter to open up with her more. So Emma does open up and tells her mom how scared she was. They hug and cry it out and the episode ends. So yeah, I really don't remember this episode being so intense and creepy when I was a kid. So while I want to recommend this episode because I think the story is well told, I also kind of have to give a soft recommendation because like I said, I think it could be a bit disturbing, even for me as an adult. Overall, I do think they handled the issue well. I think they talked about the disconnect between communication when you have a teenage daughter and between the mother. And now I do understand why they spent so much time on the adult characters. I think this is an episode that is meant to be watched with your parents. They must have issued some kind of warning at the beginning of the episode, like viewer discretion is advised, please watch this with a parent, but I'm not really sure. I love that Manny was the hero of the story. If Manny was not there, things would have turned out horribly. So going back to our initial question, does this hold up to the standards of today? I think obviously on many levels it's dated, right? This issue, of course, is still just as important as ever, but the way that we address it will be completely different. With the advances in technology and how easy it has become to meet people, obviously new challenges come up in how we're protecting kids from predatory adults. So I really hope for Degrassi 2023 they can kind of address this, talk about cell phones, social media, dating apps, and so on, and what challenges kids are facing nowadays, and how as a society or a family unit we're able to keep kids as safe as we can. But what did you think? Did you think it crossed the line a little bit too much as a kid's show, or do you think it helped scare kids away from making these kinds of mistakes? Do you think they handled the issue well overall? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you made it to the end of this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I will be releasing a new video on Degrassi next week, so please be here to check that out. Thanks everyone, and see you next time.